Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and the first piece of information I'm going to go over with at the beginning of this was given to me by Brad Combs. So I wanted to make sure any of you that don't follow, he's at Backup Bradley. That's BAKKUPBRADLEY. You can follow him on Twitter there, and he's also got a YouTube channel. Brad Combs, he's really grown the subscriber base. So give him a subscribe. He's got a good channel. I listen to him. He does occasionally. He used to do live streams. He's kind of doing more of pre-recorded videos now, but I think he live streams on every Friday with like Cryptopolis, and I think he does them every once in a while. But he gave me this. This is what he gave me right here. This document: the role of blockchain in banking, future prospects for cross-border payments. This document has Ripple and XRP all over it. Okay. And I want to show you, I'm just going to show you one section of the document, but first I want you to understand who put the document out. It's an organization called OMFIF, OMFIF. OMFIF is an independent think tank for central banking, economic policy, and public investment, providing a neutral platform for public and private sector engagement worldwide. Teams in London, Singapore, and the U.S., So anyway, these guys it's like a think tank for all the central banks. So look at, I wanted to show you their advisor network, just to show you a couple of organizations. World Bank, BNY Mellon, who we know is involved in PolySun, right? House of Lords, Stanford. I'm just showing you some of the names that I recognize. Let's see DZ Bank. And then we've got, let's see, Standard Chartered Bank, which is just a node on the network away from Ripple. DBS Bank, we've talked about them in association with Ripple before. There's World Bank Group again, Standard Chartered Bank again. And these are there's a lot of academics, but you see a lot of people at all sorts of universities. There's Princeton, London School of Economics. This guy's formerly from Deutsche Bank. As you go down, I mean, all these people are connected in finance and finance all over the world. So major connected organization, and they're more or less a think tank for central banks. Now let's get to the document. I am only going to show you the one part where it talks about XRP. It mentions XRP 6 times in this document, but this is the one I want to focus on. Spotlight Ripple. Rather than compete with large banking companies, Ripple plans to partner with leading financial institutions and provide them with blockchain solution. Instead of converting dollars into other currencies, which entails exchange rate costs, processing fees, and slow transaction time, one bank can transfer, for example, $5 million worth of XRP to another bank's Ripple portfolio, which can then be converted into local currency. Ripple is seeking to position itself as an alternative to SWIFT. Its software controls the relevant bank's funds and updates each party's accounting books. The settlement process is completed in seconds. By consolidating liquidity to service international payments from many disjointed international Nostro accounts into one XRP pool, respondent banks allocate less total liquidity to service the same volume of global payments. The bank only has to hold its domestic currency and maintain one account with XRP with only enough XRP to service its largest expected payment obligation. The process minimizes the number of intermediaries and their markup on spreads. I want to read this part again. By consolidating liquidity to service international payments from many disjointed international Nostro accounts into one XRP pool. Now I want you to go to my Greg Kidd interview when he answered this question. I'm not going to show you the question, but here's his answer. Think about international Nostro accounts.
Well, there's a limited amount of XRP in the world. I mean, 100 billion sounds like a big number, But look, what is XRP competing with? Right now in the correspondent banking system, banks have to deposit money, Nostro, Vostro, all around the world. So there's pots of liquidity so that things can move from one silo to another. The way that all works is with pre-funded liquidity. And all that pre-funded liquidity happens in all the different fiat currencies of the world. So if you really want to be able to service money all around and move it, you've got to have all these pre-funded pots and all these different currencies. But if you could agree on one currency and one that you could replenish, not just 9 to 5, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you'd need less liquidity, because you could see that when you're getting low, you can restock. And how long does it take to restock? 3 seconds. How much does it cost to restock? Less than a penny. And so the advantage of XRP is it's a much more efficient method of moving liquidity around. It would be like having an engine that ran on a teacup of oil rather than a gallon of oil. Everything still needs liquidity. Pre-funding is good, but when you can top up your pre-funding in 3 seconds, you need a lot less oil in the engine for the engine to work well. And that's what Ripple brought to the market.
Are you saying that a lot of that Nostro money one day is going to be in XRP? Is that the ultimate goal?
Oh, it's going to be replaced. It's going to be replaced by XRP. And so that just that demand for the thimble of oil, like that thimble is pretty big. And so if all the banks need just enough XRP to handle their liquidity requirements, and you also have money transmitters doing it, and maybe even just major corporations are doing it as well, they're just posting their own liquidity around. Everybody needs less liquidity than they needed Nostro and Vostro fiat currency, but that's still a lot of practical need for XRP. And so I think Ripple's done some of those calculations. If each bank around the world and each other regulated financial institution had just enough XRP for their liquidity needs, that would create amazing practical demand for XRP all around the world. Just like there's only 21 million Bitcoins, if people want to have that in their portfolio as like a defensive asset, by the time all the different retirement funds, hedge funds, individuals buy just to have a little bit of extra of Bitcoin tucked away, that creates an overall aggregate demand for Bitcoin. Same is true for Ripple, although its purpose is not just like as a panic currency, it's for a very specific task, creating an alternative to the heavy liquidity needs for the current Nostro Vostro system of correspondent banking.
And we are talking trillions.
Yeah, there's trillions. This is the huge kind of deadweight loss in the economy when you have money tied up just so you don't run out when you're trying to like move funds from one country to another. It's a deadweight drag on society to have a huge amount of our liquidity tied up in Nostro Vostro accounts around the world.
Yeah. So I think that should lay it out pretty good for you. Okay, DJ Peter Voss sent me this. Now, Fidelity apparently came out with a report. Now, remember in my last video, we were talking about this narrative that we're seeing all of a sudden. We saw Brad Garlinghouse say it. We saw Corey Johnson say it. I believe it was in a Forbes article. It's basically all of a sudden the world is starting to realize that these digital assets like XRP that have a limited amount will be a place to go when people start hitting the exits. Now, this is from a Fidelity report, and I just highlighted this section. Fidelity's report confirmed a trend that I've observed over the last year. The institutional adoption of digital assets has been growing and broadening. As the report points out, the majority of early adopter institutional investors have so far been sector-focused crypto or venture funds, high net worth individuals, or individuals in family offices. Adoption has now shifted from those early adopters to tier 1 and tier 2 global financial firms such as investment banks, infrastructure banks, and legacy exchanges, many of which are very well-known brands. The last few months have seen a distrust in the financial markets become increasingly pervasive. Recent central bank policy, although a catalyst for broad market recoveries, is again raising questions of longer-term fiat sustainability as a store of wealth, just as occurred in the global financial crisis of 2008, 2009 when Bitcoin was born. This right here is almost word for word what Brad Garlinghouse said in his video, folks. It is clear that the investor appetite is near an inflection point that could really accelerate adoption. Folks, you can see the pedal hit the metal very soon. I am getting a major vibe right now from everywhere. Okay, XRP James, DAI channel official former Navy SEAL, sent me this. U.S. Congressman and FinTech Task Force Chair Representative Stephen Lynch wants to support cryptocurrency pilot programs and regulatory sandbox at the USOCC. This is the comptroller. Lynch wants a roundtable in the near future to discuss how to move forward on pilots to experiment with crypto. Now, we're supposed to believe that they're just now testing all this out. I don't believe that, but I'll go along. Okay. All right. Now, this is great. XRP Yo-Yo sent this bank. It's an article that was from a Bank Frick in Liechtenstein. It's from their bank, a blog, I believe. Bank Frick, founded in 1998, is one of the most crypto-friendly in Liechtenstein, offering custody and trading for Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, and 7 other digital assets. This is their blog, and they're talking about adding the USDC stable coin. But as you go down here, they talk about the different assets that they custody. You can store. They've got Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Ripple, Ethereum, Ethereum Classic, NEM, Quantum, I guess is what that's called, Stellar, and USD Coin. So these guys are now custodying crypto assets there in Liechtenstein. And they've got secure cold storage. And then here's a video from a guy who is following this too. Watch this. This is from XRP.
Why do you think Liechtenstein has been more open to offering these kinds of services to crypto blockchain related companies?
I think it's in the DNA of Liechtenstein. We always had to look for niches, to look for new developments. It's difficult for a small country like Liechtenstein to do the big scale things. So we always were eager to see niches, to see new developments, and to be ahead of the crowd. And that's the same here. Plus, we are lucky that our financial market authority is open to these aspects too. Without a regulator who is ready to really deal with that, this wouldn't be possible.
Let's dig a little bit deeper into the actual companies and your clients. Is it half of them SMEs, blockchain related companies, and then the other half done through ICOs that are coming to you?
I would say there are not that many ICOs right now. It's more people and companies who have a certain standing, who have certain products. There's also a lot of exchange business going on. There are some ICOs, let's say, in the backlog now, but it takes more time than it used to take.
Demand is certainly there. We can see it from these figures. But what are the risks that come with accepting these types of clients?
You're absolutely right to ask about the risks.
You as chairman, you guide the strategy of the bank, and a lot of it now is dedicated towards addressing these crypto firms.
But the funny thing is, I would say if you have the cryptocurrencies, the tokens, they are of little risk. Why? There are great software tools which allow you to follow the trace of the token, if I may say so, to the very beginning. So if somebody brings 1,000 Bitcoins and wants to change them into fiat, that means into Swiss franc, dollars, whatever, it's easy to trace it back because in the blockchain, each step.
Interesting. So, and then finally, I want to show you this video. I've told you there's only a handful of digital assets that I think really have some true promise, and I only show them on here if they're backed by significant people and I feel like they will actually have some real utility. And Cardano is one of those I've talked about. This is from New Creation Capital. Listen to this.
Hello, my name is Vince Cerf. I'm Google's chief internet evangelist. And in the course of my career, I built a number of things, and I was part of the team that built the internet way back in 1973. The internet has turned out to be quite an enormous and globe-girdling platform. It's being used in a variety of ways, and it's being abused in a variety of ways too. I'll be at the Cardano Summit July 2nd and 3rd. We'll be talking about the internet, its history, its current uses, some of its abuses, and where it might be headed in the future. So I hope you can join me July 2nd or July 3rd. See you there.
So that should be pretty interesting. I believe Cardano is one of the digital assets that has a future, and so it's something that I'll be checking out myself. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family that Vince Cerf is going to be at the Cardano Summit. Thanks for listening.